is Ian Khan, and welcome to the Ian Khan Show. Here I talk about emerging technology, trends, predictions, and anything and everything that's bothering you with the emergence of technologies and the challenge in understanding how they create impact. Now, what I see out there in the world is that there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of talk about technologies that are premature, and talk about how great they are, how big they are. A few years ago, we saw the same thing happen with cloud. We saw the same thing happen with big data. And we continue to see that with blockchain, artificial intelligence, and every other technology that's out there that's creating a change. Now, in order to really understand how technology is changing the world and how you could use it in your business to do things better and to change the way you create value for your customers, your stakeholders, for your constituents, your citizens, if you're a government, is to really understand it in a way that you can think about implementing it. And that's what we do at the Futurist Institute of Thought Leadership, is break down technology so that you can understand and everybody else can understand how to implement it, how to understand it at a value creation level. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about again, blockchain technology and a pivotal industry that blockchain is going to add value to, and not necessarily disrupt, because but just adding more value to an industry that can demand and need a little bit of efficiency, because how things happen within that industry is completely inefficient. And that industry is the industry of transportation. It's transportation, logistics, shipping, anything where goods are transported from one location to another can be categorized under this industry. Now, within the logistics, transportation, third-party logistics, 3PL, or cargo, freight industries, there's many different types of transportation we can consider. There's trucking, there's shipping, there's air freight, and other levels of freight forwarding and shipping. The biggest challenge that exists within this industry is all about information. So at the beginning of everything, we've got to figure out what's the fundamental problem within an industry. As with many other industries, a big problem is with information. It's with data. And here's an example. Today, if there's a shipment that's going from, say, San Francisco to Australia, and let's say there's something being exported from San Francisco to Australia, a number of documents are generated as part of this shipment. Let's say it's a cargo full of electronics, a cargo full of iPhones. 100 million iPhones are going on a ship, and they're for some reason going over to Australia. A starting document, a starting manifest that's created is not the only document that reaches the end destination. Throughout the process of the handover, that this shipment goes from one port to the other, from one country to the other, it crosses international borders, it changes hands within freight forwarding agencies and sub-agencies that help clear it from customs, clear it through different agencies and different borders throughout this journey, that it might take a few days or a few weeks or let's say a few months in some other goods. This journey of any goods that are exported changes hands multiple times. They say sometimes over 200 different documents are generated as part of a typical shipment from one corner of the world to the other corner. 200 different types of documents. Within these 200 different types of documents is information. A lot of it is common information. What are the goods? What is in the containers? What value does it have? What's the dollar amount? But it also has some localized, some regional information. Who's the local shipping for freight forwarder? Who's the local clearance agents, and so on. And if you're from the shipping 3PL industry, logistics industry, you know very well what I'm talking about. Now, this is the biggest challenge, is that information for shipments today lies in different hands. And that's why 200, 300, or more than 100 documents are being created by every party to put information into their proprietary system, into their software for tracking what's going on, and to figure out, and as part of their business, to understand what process is this shipment in. if we were to magically, eliminate this problem of having different silos of information, and we were magically able to have just one source of information. Imagine a big mothership of information that had everything about this shipment, the customs value, the number of items, the types of goods, and every piece of information was within that big chunk of data. Part two, second step, is that imagine that every party within that supply chain, every single body, freight forwarder, clearance agent, receiver, shipper, everybody had access to this central piece of information, so that they could tap into the information, they could note down what they wanted to note down, they could import it, they could add different things to it if they needed to, such as updates, where the shipment is in case of real-time updates and the real-time status location of it. And imagine that information would be sent back to that central mothership of information, and it would be updated in a way so that it didn't delete any of the older information, but it kind of updated the status and said, hey, this is where it's currently at, this is what's happening with this shipment right now. That would eliminate, first of all, the creation of all these different documents across the board. Agencies, companies, organizations who are touching this shipment would not have to generate new documents, but they would be using the existing big mothership or the big block of data to utilize information and to then add back information to that with their updates. Now, there's a misconception behind digitization of information and digital capture of information. There's different ways it's defined. There's the idea of creating a PDF document, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your document information has been captured. You've definitely digitized, let's say, a Word document into a PDF format, and you've eliminated a lot of paper within your company or your business, and you've gone paperless. That's amazing. But that doesn't mean you've necessarily solved the challenge of capturing the information from all the different fields within that document, and now you can transfer that information to another party, or that information can be shared. And that's the big challenge, is not creating PDF documents, but to use information in a way so that when it's captured at source, it can be used and reused between different parties, instead of retyping it into new computers and new softwares where they need to make some changes to that. And that's where human error comes in. Human error is a big problem in every industry, right? We have a limited amount of thinking. They say that, they say that 3, 2, 1. What is it called? It's called... They say that multitasking is not reality, because as humans, we can only focus on one thing at a time. And so when you say I'm multitasking, you're actually paying less and less and less attention to everything that you're doing. So it could be very well a myth, and sometimes when you just focus on one thing, it's better to do that. Now, the challenge with information and passing on information between one party to the other, as I said, is a challenge because it leads to human errors. It leads to errors in information being captured in the wrong way. There's also the challenge of time consumed. It takes time to input information into different systems, into proprietary systems and technologies in any industry. And that's a time delay and a time gap. A result of this is, let's say, delayed payments to sub-vendors. So when sometimes you submit an invoice, you often get told, well, we'll pay you in 15 days, 30 days, a month, 2 months. And what's the reason for that? Why don't companies just say, hey, your invoice will be automatically paid as soon as you've delivered the goods, because we will know when you delivered them, and we have a magical system that would automatically pay you. That doesn't exist right now. Everything is manual, which leads to errors, which leads to delays, and this manual work is not helping us create an efficient industry. Going back to the logistics side of things, there are some things that we cannot avoid. We cannot avoid things being transported from one part of the world to the other, or from one city or one location to the other. Goods have to go on a truck, as an example, or on a ship, and they have to be transported. So that part definitely is manual, unless we find a way to manifest those things on the other end. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So we've got to stick with that manual process. So let's think about how can we create efficiency in other parts. Going back to the data side of things, if we had this big mothership of data, this big block of information that encased everything we needed to know about the shipment, it would create a lot of efficiency within the shipping industry. You wouldn't have errors anymore. Everybody and every party who has something to do with that shipment would be able to access information in real time. They would be able to access things that they needed to know about that shipment, and so on and so forth. That creates a tremendous amount of efficiency in the entire logistics and supply chain industry. So this big magic ship, mothership, big central data repository is nothing but the idea of blockchain. So this is what blockchain does. Forget about the dual accounting system and the register in the sky. Forget about all those definitions of blockchain. It's a very technical definition, but for the sake of business, in order to really understand it, it simply is a central point where information can be stored, information can be shared, information can be updated, and it can be used and reused as needed. Different parties can be given permission to access this information, and you can really restrict and limit and give rights to different parties involved to use that information in the right way. And that's the concept of blockchain at a very high level when it comes to transformation in the logistics industry. Now, you might say, why aren't we doing this right now? Aren't we able to store information like this right now? Why isn't there a magical system in the cloud that's doing this? The answer is, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because there's tens and hundreds of different softwares that different companies use, whether they're regional, they're international, at an international level, whether at an industry level. Everybody has a different type of system they use to add information, to change information, to access information. They all are based on their own proprietary technologies. So they might be based on SQL databases or Oracle databases, MS Access databases. They might be on cloud. They might be on-prem. They might be a technology or software installed on your computer. And that's the challenge between all these different thousands of different systems that exist. How do you create one central data repository that you can access information from and you can input information in? That's what is missing, and this is what blockchain can do and change. So there's many other aspects of blockchain within the industry. There's also the idea of something called smart contracts, and smart contracts in a very simple way are these conditional things that happen when certain conditions are fulfilled. So for example, you might end up paying your suppliers for their work, as I mentioned before, 30 or 60 days after they submit their invoice, causes a huge delay, traps a lot of money and funds in places where the money is just sitting there, whereas suppliers, vendors, manufacturers, and companies need access to that cash in order to produce more goods, in order to be more productive. And that's a gap that can be decreased through smart contracts. You can have conditions such as if a shipment enters the country, which would give it a check mark on, well, the shipment is, let's say, 50% on its way, or 80% on its way, or 90% on its way, then you can release an incremental payment to your suppliers so that they receive their money for the part that they've done, and it creates efficiency in the system. And this condition can be an automated condition. They can be paid from things such as cryptocurrencies, as an example. I'm not going to go into the details of cryptocurrencies, but imagine that that it's another way of form of payment. It can very well be tomorrow in the industry that the traditional banking system can be connected to blockchain, and in many cases there are a lot of startups are doing that right now. But the advent of smart contracts really changes things because it adds automation and to the process. And that's the beauty of technology, that automation helps create better results and better efficiency, and then we're not involved as people, as human beings, to verify things and wait for them just because we have many other things to do. That's one example of a smart contract. Smart contracts, designing smart contracts is a process in its own, and I believe that within the logistics shipping industry, shippers, logistics providers, everybody needs to be involved in designing these smart contracts. As an example, a smart contract can be designed at the beginning of the shipping process, and let's say it's the first time a company is shipping something from one point to the other. That's the time when you set a template, or when you create this base or foundational smart contract that has all these conditions in it. Who can access information about this shipment? Who can get paid what for this shipment? Who can register for real-time updates? Who can add information to this shipment, to this manifest? And all of those things can be designed through smart contracts, and that creates a lot of efficiency. Today in the industry, there's many different solutions within blockchain that are creating smart contracts. Ethereum is one of them. It's one of the foundational smart contract technologies based on blockchain. So check out Ethereum and the logistics industry and how that can help. But as the industry develops, I believe we do need to make an effort to understand the revolution that blockchain technology can create. It's also a matter of industry adopting certain standards, certain operating mechanisms, and we're not as close as to the final result where every shipping and logistics provider is going to be on blockchain, but we have to create a start. We need to make a start. Some of the larger companies have started experimenting with it. They're looking at smart contracts as a way to create efficiency, as I mentioned, and so the time has come when the wheels are turning, the gears are turning. Of course, a huge impact is created when the larger companies, the larger shipping providers, logistics companies say that they are going to do this. So that is happening right now. One of the aspects, again, of the industry is how is infrastructure developed across the world? Are the shipping ports able to receive shipments based on blockchain? What about the governments, the taxation agencies, the customs clearance departments of different countries and different ports and regions? Are they able to access this information on blockchain? Imagine that we are in the early 90s, the 80s. And we're laying the foundation of blockchain technology right now. This is the time, early 80s, mid 80s to late 80s was a time when we were laying the foundation for the internet. And we didn't have a lot of answers. We did not know what to do with the internet and how could it really change the world. And that's the stage we are at with blockchain technology right now, in terms of laying the foundation of everything that is possible through blockchain. So this is the right time to get involved with blockchain. It's the right time to understand this technology, to do some research on it, to put extra focus on it, because it definitely is transforming the way we are doing things. Check out my upcoming documentary film, blockchaincitymovie.com. Blockchain City is the story of different cities across the world where blockchain technology is being used or is planned to be used. Why are these cities using blockchain technology? How will it change what these cities are doing? And how will it create value and change the environment around us? The film is coming out next month, and I'll make sure to put a link up on my website. In the meanwhile, if you are a logistics provider, a 3PL, anyone who has anything to do with shipping, transportation, logistics, you're a trucking operator, then start having a dialogue with people in your industry. Go to your association and talk to them about blockchain and how it can have an impact on your business. This is definitely not a trend. It's definitely not a hype. I'm not talking about cryptocurrencies here. And there's a big difference between cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. We have to differentiate between these two because they are completely different. The cryptocurrencies are built on top of blockchains. They're one type of an application on the blockchain. But blockchain itself is a foundational technology that has many other uses. And I'm really on a mission to help understand blockchain technology because it has a tremendous amount of value and impact on what you could do as a business and how it could transform your industry. So talk to your peers, talk to your associations, and get knowledge sharing started, because unless you don't understand where blockchain is coming from, how it can change your business, you won't be able to adopt to it. Your other peers within industry will start doing it, and there will be an imbalance between efficiency again within the industry. This is a revolution that's coming to your business soon, so start learning about it. And I hope this video has been helpful in just touching a little bit on the logistics 3PL industry and how it can be affected by blockchain. Please subscribe to my video series, share my videos on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and help share this knowledge across the board to people who can be part of this change. We all have to work together on this, and we cannot isolate ourselves. So be part of the change if you really want to benefit from it. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And feel free to share this video with your peers. Start learning about technology, start learning about change, and you will be in a position to change the lives of millions of other people. Thank you so much, and I love you, and I'll catch you next week.
Hi, I am Ian Khan. We live in a fast-changing world. Today, technology is disrupting everything, but more than that, it is our mindset to not adopt to a fast-changing world. It's our inability to recognize our potential, to adapt to change and succeed. I am on a mission to unlock human potential and to help you realize the tremendous possibilities that lie in the future. Because technology is such a big part of our lives and the future, I massively simplify complex ideas to help shape the next big thing. You must have probably seen my talks on TEDx or read one of my books. As a futurist and motivational speaker, the purpose of my life is to help you unlock what lies within, and for all of us to utilize the tools we have available to be massively successful. To change our lives and to become great, we don't need anything except to realize our greatness and to decide what we want to become. Join me in my quest, and together, let's create a better tomorrow.